Dia tiba-tiba 90+%.
Wow.
Iya kan? Jadi kayak itu kayak to achieve that 2-3 bulan itu wow, we were kayak amazed aja.
Gue kasih tau ya, 220 kali 4,
Iya.
880 juta revenue per month from the court.
Roughly. Pasti there will be clubs that eventually run out of business juga, go out of business juga. That's I think inevitable, ya kan. So, tapi kayak how do you position yourself in a way where you are the ones, banyak klub yang tutup, sportnya bakal mati. The growth in Indonesia itu easily exceeds the growth in every other Asian country.
Kembali lagi di Voknomics Podcast. Hari ini gue lagi megang raket ini. If you wonder why, karena hari ini kita bakal ngobrol-ngobrol sama my friend. He is an entrepreneur dan pastinya dia adalah owner dari pedal court di Jakarta. Salah satu pedal court di Jakarta. Namanya adalah Ace Pedal dan please welcome Bro Matthew Jeremy.
Thanks for having me.
Bro Matthew, thank you for coming. Thank you buat waktunya udah main ke Voknomics Podcast. Dan Bro Matthew, first of all, you are the owner, one of the owners ya, dari Ace Pedal yang ada di Jalan Panjang, Jakarta Barat.
Tuh.
Bener ya?
Yes.
Udah berapa lama Ace Pedal?
Kita bangun pas kita buka November 2024. So, berarti tahun lalu ya.
Bulan depan,
Yeah.
first anniversary.
Exactly.
Okay. Baru 1 tahun, tapi kita bakal ngobrolin the growth, the significant growth.
Yes.
Ya, oke. The reason kenapa gue bawa raket pedal ini salah satu barang yang paling dicari dan penjualannya sangat pesat 1 tahun terakhir. Setuju gak?
Gila kayaknya. This past year.
Gue cek di ChatGPT gak ada data salesnya, tapi around the world katanya penjualannya itu sekitar 145 juta USD in 2025. The whole world ya. Dan lumayan signifikan di Indonesia. Cuman data pastinya nggak ada. So this is the reason, dan kita bakal ngobrolin tentang padel. Is it padel or pedal, bro?
I guess in certain countries kan is padel, ya kan?
Padel ya. That's the origin.
Yeah, but kayak I know orang-orang kan bakal bilang kayak paddle. Ya. Tapi I think that's the proper cara
padel ya, padel. Okay, first of all, Bro Matthew, can you share about yourself, your background? Karena I know you are one of the owners, salah satu owner dari Ace Padel di Jakarta Barat, dan you are also have a business kan? Yeah, can you share a bit of your story?
Sure, ya. Jadi gue lulus kuliah tahun 2018.
Okay.
Di US, actually belajar computer science, kayak informatika gitu.
Di US di mana, bro?
Di Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Jadi waktu itu ada kesempatan untuk kerja di US di berbagai perusahaan. Terus kita kan termasuk big tech lah ya di situ waktu itu. Jadi I worked as a software engineer untuk 3 years di sana. Terus ada kesempatan untuk pindah ke Singapura. Jadi di sana gue kerja untuk TikTok, the parent company, ByteDance waktu itu.
Headquarter di Asia ya?
Yeah, Singapore was the headquarters at the time.
Right,
jadi kayak then suddenly ini kan after COVID, terus kayak obviously kan always had aspiration untuk pindah balik ke Jakarta, closer to home, closer to family. Jadi sekarang kan gue di bidang finansial, pasar modal ya. So me and 2 partners started our own asset management company. Ya. Sekarang kita udah 1 triliun in assets under management.
Wow.
So we started in I'd say 2022. So and still growing.
Boleh share namanya mungkin?
Ya. Simpan Asset Management.
Simpan Asset Management.
Ya. Jadi itu emang bagian gue itu di software. Jadi kita build platform untuk wealth management, ya kan. Dan kita juga ada aplikasi simpan untuk retail investor kita.
Yeah. So that is your main business.
That's correct. Yeah.
Dan Ace Pedal adalah your second business lah,
yes,
boleh bilang ya.
Right.
Thank you so much. Dan kita mau shout out ke Billy Kurniawan dulu, karena he is the one connecting us ya.
Definitely.
Dia yang menyambungkan kita ketemu hari ini. Dan thank you Billy.
Shout out to Billy.
Ya, shout out to Billy Kurniawan dari Janji Jiwa Group Ya,
Yeah.
thank you. Alright, thank you for the introduction, thank you for the background story, dan we'll talk about paddle atau padel ya. Dan gue ngobrol sama Billy sih, kayak gue pengen discuss about padel dong. Karena I know he's one of the investors di Ace Padel kan ya. Dan karena banyak yang udah ngomongin ada penurunan, ada downtrend di industri padel di Indonesia. Ya, sebelumnya hype banget, tapi mulai berasa ada penurunan gitu. Kita bakal ngobrolin soal padel, a lot of things about padel di podcast kali ini. Ya, first of all, boleh share gak? Karena gue tahu Ace Padel itu salah satu yang pertama di Jakarta kalau nggak salah, ya, bener gak?
Kayaknya kita klub ke 6 atau ke 7 di Jakarta.
Di Jakarta
kayaknya.
ya?
Bener, ya,
Oh.
I'd say. Jadi yang Generation 1 clubs termasuk kayak Racket Paddle Club yang di Cilandak, Home Ground yang di Kedoya, itu pertama di Barat sih. Terus ada, dan obviously Paddle Pro, ya kan?
Iya.
Gue inget tuh pas awal-awal, kayak orang-orang cuma main di 3 itu. Dan Verde kan came soon after kayaknya. Ya kan? Jadi kayak gue inget banget pas Racket Paddle tutup, itu kayak semuanya pindah ke Home Ground. Terus Paddle Pro buka, semuanya pindah ke Paddle Pro. Jadi it's literally just those 3 kan.
Iya.
Itu I'd say OG clubs Gen 1. I'd say kita came a little bit after that ya. So,
mereka tahun berapa ya, if you remember?
Racket Paddle Club itu the very first, kayaknya 2022 aja udah ada deh. If I'm not mistaken ya, I could be
after
wrong.
COVID ya berarti.
After COVID ya.
I know.
And in Bali, I guess like Jungle Paddle has started like around after COVID juga. I think the first club in Pararenan was around that time juga.
Actually, I know paddle itu dari lihat-lihat Instagram di Bali sih sebenarnya.
Exactly.
Yang main bule-bule. I thought ini sport buat bule gitu kan.
Yep.
Tapi hype-nya mungkin cuma ada di Bali.
Yes.
Ya kan?
Yeah.
I don't know di Jakarta se-hype apa waktu itu sih. If you know, kan you pasti keliling dulu, do some research ya.
Yeah.
Di sini yang main market seperti apa dulu awal-awal?
Awal-awal as in kayak 2022.
Yeah.
I'd say kayak I think 2022 masih belum gitu rame lah ya. So I'd say kayak Racket Paddle Club itu what they did really well was kan I think that Cilandak area kan banyak orang bule.
Ya,
jadi kayak itu beneran yang I'd say the majority of people yang main bule-bule. Awal-awal tuh gue inget home ground ada bule-bule juga. Then after that suddenly ada orang-orang starting to form their groups lah, ya kan. Jadi untuk that's when the communities mulai masuk gitu kan. Jadi kayak I think kayak in a way in Bali juga the same, ya kan. Similar kayak I think very unique market.
Betul.
Karena itu majority kan tourist, majority foreigners. Jadi kayak all the paddle clubs it was a perfect place to start, ya kan. Tapi suddenly now if you look at Bali kan I'd say udah mulai transition ke local players juga kan.
Betul.
Banyak orang-orang ke Bali paddle vacation, paddle trip atau apa gitu kan. Tapi kayak awal-awal market di sini kayaknya emang I'd say similar trend, definitely. Tapi you see people yang mungkin kayak datang dari tenis, datang dari badminton juga karena racket sport background gitu lah ya. So I'd say kayak I'd say it was dominated by those people at the very beginning karena mungkin mereka capek kayak tenis kan susah gitu kan. So I think this is kayak I know like especially after COVID kan orang-orang juga looking for sport to play yang kayak bisa social distancing, ya kan. And I think this was the case in other countries like Europe juga. Katanya you would think that paddle in Europe actually dated before COVID, but actually during COVID was when it like also took off gitu. Ini kan gue juga ada teman-teman dari Belanda, itu mereka bilang itu gara-gara COVID, that was the only sport you can play. That allowed you to play gitu. You cannot play contact sports anymore. Bola gak bisa, basket gak bisa gitu. Jadi kayak I think it was an opportunity for paddle to take off at the time.
Do you play padel juga kan?
Of course.
Regularly.
Very regularly now.
Tapi tadi dapat info dari Bro Matthew, dia tuh tenis banget sebenarnya dari dulu, dari di US makanya.
I guess even before kayak di sini pas gue SMP gitu udah ikut kayak les gitu kan ya. Terus mulai tanding kayak recreational league juga kayak ILTL gitu ya. Jadi kayak emang awal-awal pas I guess partner-partner gue nih sekarang nih di Ace, Billy segala kan mereka udah main duluan sebelum gue. Kayak mereka kayak bilang kayak lu main aja lah, ini kan bakal gampang buat lu kan, kayak coba aja. Tapi gue sebagai pemain tenis at the time kayak rasanya kayak ngapain sih gue pindah sport, why do I need to do this, kayak I'm happy where I am gitu kan. Tapi ya then the rest is history.
Karena ini ya gue juga sih ya, gue bener-bener backgroundnya tenis, ILTL juga, terus tapi terbawa sama temen-temen nih,
FOMO.
FOMO, dan emang orang-orang temen-temen komunitasnya 75% ke paddle gitu. Jadi mau nggak mau
tenisnya kan.
Komunitas tenisnya. Jadi mau nggak mau I'll give it a try gitu kan. Kalau nggak ada temen jadinya.
Pasti mereka ngomong-ngomong, gue udah tambah jago nih, kayak ya yang biasanya ya itu competitiveness-nya kan. Langsung kayak gue jadi mau coba is it that hard gitu kayak.
Setelah dicoba gimana, bro?
I mean, of course there are a lot of things yang bantu lah ya dari tenis kan. I think orang-orang yang gak ada racket sport background kan their response time is pasti jauh lebih like pelan gitu kan. Dengan tenis kan I guess it's just bigger court tapi you have the similar shots. Biasanya kan ada ground stroke, volley, especially smash gitu kan. Tapi then yang actually got me more into the game itu karena ada berbagai variasi untuk setiap shot gitu kan ya. Kayak volley-nya kan harus bisa flat, shotnya bisa flat. Terus kayak smashnya kan ada berbagai macam, ya kan, bandeja, vibora, itu kan semuanya sekarang udah tahu gitu. Jadi kayak I think itu juga agak menarik sih untuk gua waktu itu. Jadi kayak kayak ternyata itu kayak there's more things to know about olahraga ini gitu ya kan. Karena ya di tenis kan cuman itu aja gitu. We know it all, kayak ya kan itu main paling kayak baseline doang ya kan. Variety of the game-nya mungkin nggak sebanyak paddle sih, to be honest with you. Jadi
setuju. Dan apparently sekarang mainnya seminggu berapa kali, bro?
3-4 kali.
3-4 kali. Ya. Dari yang
termasuk networking juga lah.
Kalau tenis jadi berapa kali seminggu?
Sekali.
Tenis jadi sekali seminggu. Paddle jadi 3-4 kali seminggu.
Betul,
ada business purpose di belakangnya juga lah ya. Networking.
Networking. Kan juga main paddle sekarang kan banyak orang-orang market juga ya kan, kayak prospective client juga for my other business juga. I think it's an opportunity lah. I think justru what I really enjoy about paddle juga ya membangun relationship kayak gini on and off the court juga, kayak I feel like you meet so many people ya kan. Karena ya obviously thankfully the sport is growing, everyone plays the sport, jadi kayak gampang untuk kayak maybe instead of coffee ya kita main paddle aja.
Dan tadi barusan berapa hari yang lalu gue baca artikel di luar ya, di mana gue lupa, business meeting berubah dari golf ke padel. Karena golf take so much time dan effort kan, harus ke
18 holes berapa jam
lapangan. Terus lapangannya nggak deket, biasanya agak di luar.
Harus pagi-pagi.
Padel 1 jam 2 jam. Mandi, ganti baju, balik kerja.
Exactly.
Do you find that true di sini?
I think so too. I think orang-orang yang maybe just want to be more efficient with their time, kan. You don't need to play golf for like 4 hours kan jadinya, and I guess lebih flexible juga. And now sekarang apalagi di daerah selatan kan tuh CBD udah lumayan banyak tuh pilihan-pilihan lapangan padelnya. That's why I think they're so full.
Betul.
Iya kan, itu perfect banget.
I'll call this fenomena sih ya, fenomena paddle sih. Dan
culture, it's like a new culture.
Udah jadi culture sekarang ya. So let's talk about Ace lah ya, Ace Paddle.
Sure.
Lahirnya Ace Paddle. You are di bidang apa? Di role apa di Ace Paddle, Bro Matthew?
Gua jadi pegang lebih ke coaching ya kan. Kita juga di Ace kan salah satu visi kita ya bikin academy kita sendiri. Kita salah satu klub at the time yang bawain coach dari luar, dari luar negeri.
Dari mana?
Kita kan hire coach kita, shout out to Taufik. Dia dari Belanda, sama sekarang kita juga ada coach Gaston dari Argentina.
Wow.
Ya, jadi I think justification-nya itu kan at the time olahraga ini begitu baru, gak mungkin lah kita bakal belajar dari the locals, ya kan.
Yeah.
I think rather we thought that our vision was bring in talent dari luar and then surround them with local talent supaya local talentnya juga bisa grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's a more healthy balance lah ya jadinya. Yeah. And kita dari dulu always wanted to invest in the coaching. Ya.
Right.
Itu satu. Terus kedua lebih ke the marketing, I guess.
Okay.
Content,
Okay.
social media, events. Yeah, I think itu semua kayak under my jurisdiction juga.
Okay.
And then I think aside from that juga help with the day to day a little bit juga.
Okay.
Ya. Tapi kayak I think overall that's my contribution to
Right.
Ace. Yeah.
Right. Masing-masing ada berapa owner ya?
Kita 4 partners.
4 partners ya. Including Billy ya.
Yeah, including Billy as well.
Okay. Dan masing-masing have pegang different roles ya.
That's right.
Okay. Lahirnya is Paddle. Berarti kan November 2024.
Yeah.
Pembicaraannya dari earlier?
Yeah.
June 2008.
Kayaknya udah dari awal tahun sih.
Awal 2024.
Awal 2024.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Jadi kayak I think pas gue ketemu Ray yang bawain gue ke community mereka nih.
Okay.
West Paddle Crew, shout out West Paddle Crew.
Okay.
Salah satu komunitas terbesar di Jakarta Barat, biggest for sure.
Wow.
Ya, jadi itu kayak awal-awal gue ngopi aja nih sama si Ray. Gue baru balik dari US waktu itu.
Yeah.
Gue bilang, bro ini
2024 baru balik.
Okay. Bukan. I just came back from a trip aja sih.
Okay.
Ya, trip. Terus gue lihat di sana gila. Ini pickleball lagi gila banget nih, iya kan? Ya, like it's growing so much and kayak
di US.
Di US, ya.
Okay.
Kan I guess that's like the trend in the US now kan. Jadi kayak gue bilang ke dia, kayaknya ini bakal menarik banget nih. This sport is so much easier to play.
Right.
Iya kan? And I think it'll be very popular here. Gue lihat di KL juga, if you know, I think pickleball is more popular than paddle even now, by the way.
Okay.
Ya jadi kayaknya target marketnya bisa ada nih di sini. Terus dia bilang, bro, have you seen paddle? Ini kayak lapangan-lapangan penuh semua gitu. And you can charge, a certain premium. Pickleball tuh bisa charge berapa? Belum tahu kan.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what's unique about the industry. Kayak tiba-tiba people was able to set the rate kayak 400,000. That's on average more expensive than a tennis court.
Betul.
Iya kan. So kayak from an economic standpoint kayak smaller court, obviously, why would people build tennis courts anymore? Unfortunately, kan. You can build 2, 3 tennis courts, paddle courts in one
tennis court.
In one tennis court, ya kan. Jadi kayak it was hard to argue against that lah,
Okay.
ya kan. And I think at the time kayak the place that we usually go to itu kayak penuh melulu. Kita harus kayak rebut award terus untuk lapangan and like kayak to be honest, we weren't too happy with the place either. Ya kayak we thought that we could do a lot of things better. Jadi kayak why don't we just build our own place and we could basically improve on a lot of these things gitu jadinya. That was just that was the start sih.
Okay.
Kayaknya.
After that akhirnya terrealisasi.
Yeah.
Itu tempat punya one of the owners.
No,
Lokasi.
the location kita itu sewa, bro.
Sewa.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at the time I think my partners juga cari-cari lahan yang I think makes the most sense lah ya. And I think itu kan jalan pancing di jalan raya.
Yeah.
I think kayak it was a good kayak fit, I think. Thankfully kayak we were able to secure a deal. Terus kita pasti mau di barat. Gara-gara all the partners itu tinggal di barat.
Okay.
And we knew kayak this first business kan we never had to open like a sports facility sebelumnya. Jadi kayak we knew kita mau dekat aja sih. In case kayak ada emergencies or anything kan kita bisa turun tangan ke situ lebih gampang gitu. And I think it was a really good decision. Daripada kayak harus commute kayak misalnya harus kayak ke Pik atau ke selatan gitu kayaknya bakal lebih challenging lah ya.
Yeah.
So we were able to get started with that first location.
Okay, in business, I know kan perlu ada checklist ya, kayak all of the checklist untuk let's open this, let's start. I know that this is gonna grow. Dan gak ada yang pernah dari 4 owners itu yang pernah bikin bisnis, padahal this is the first time, right?
True.
For every owner ya.
Yeah.
Apa aja checklistnya sampai akhirnya let's open this gitu.
I think at the time we were just trying to evaluate kayak ini kita mau bikin tempat paddle kita kayak gimana, ya kan? Jadi kayak number one gua di barat susah banget cari coach yang bagus at the time, ya kan? Jadi kayak kayaknya pain point yang dirasain bagi banyak orang gitu kan. So like kayak itu one opportunity yang kita bisa improve and already kayak set our brand identity kayak good coaching.
Differentiate lah ya.
Langsung udah at the time ya, thankfully we were an early mover, jadi kayak I think to set the brand identity nggak sesusah sekarang kan. Yeah, that's number one. Number two ya kita pikir-pikir kayak dari sisi lapangan kayak ya ada tempat-tempat yang kalau hujan kan tampias gitu kan. Ya things like that. Itu kayak another perfect opportunity. Jadi kayak orang-orang yang mungkin pas kalau nggak salah the court that we played in yang sering kita main waktu itu ada one outdoor court bro. Jadi kayak itu pasti kalau hujan ya gak mungkin bisa dipakai. So we were like pasti our checklist was
gak boleh ada outdoor,
all indoor. You're just wasting your potential hours kan jadinya. Itu kedua. Terus ketiga, wah ini kayaknya fasilitas-fasilitas yang ada di market itu belum bisa accommodate untuk events, ya kan, turnamen gitu. Jadi mungkin kita sekalian aja deh kayak kita invest in like a facility yang mungkin bisa support kayak turnamen-turnamen, orang-orang bisa nonton.
Seperti apa, kayak tribun penonton?
Betul, ya kayak lantai 2 kayak mezzanine viewing deck gitu kan kita.
Ada itu yang keren sih ya. Pertama ya fun fact pertama kali gue coba di sports paddle itu di Ace Paddle ya. Waktu itu masih sewa raket dan I'm amazed ada mezanin bisa nonton dari atas dan sambil ngopi and whatever ya.
That was the vision sih.
Cool.
That was the vision karena we knew kayak dari sisi turnamen pasti kan we were bullish on the sport to grow ya kan. Jadi kayak pasti we knew that itu an experience that we wanted to provide lah for the people at Ace at the time. Terus finally I think we knew kayak we wanted to be a premium club ya. We knew our positioning kayak kayaknya ini belum ada nih kayak klub di daerah kita yang I guess would be called premium club gitu. And I guess kita mau sort of like experiment what will make a premium club gitu kan. Jadi kayak I guess like the small things matter ya kan. Kita checklistnya kita mau kayak rasanya kayak di hotel gitu kan. Jadinya like a 5-star hotel experience hopefully. And so I mean obviously kayak we wanted to do things kayak ambience-nya bagus ya kan, tempat common area-nya bagus. AC for the bathroom itu huge I think for a lot of people. You'd be surprised, ini mungkin sekarang everyone thinks that's so obvious kayak tapi trust me at the time belum ada in our area belum ada gitu. Belum tentu ada. Jadi kayak
sekarang kayak biasa ya.
Exactly. Jadi kayak I think we were able to already define the standard lah jadinya kan at the time. Not only that, kayaknya kita juga pasti orang-orang mau mandi sebelum kerja main, mereka mau mandi di tempat kita. Why don't we offer free towels gitu misalnya ya. Jadi kayak I think hospitality was part of the checklist that we wanted to take off juga lah. So I think ini kayak pillar-pillar kita yang di Ace yang mungkin bisa bantu kita jadi sukses juga lah ya. So I think our vision came to life and jadinya ini semua we were able to execute.
Especially hitung-hitungan juga dong ya. Checklist everything, potential revenue and everything. Itu at that time maksudnya masuk dalam pertimbangan nggak? Ini bakal bisa menghasilkan revenue berapa? Bisa break even point kapan, return on investmentnya kapan gitu, itu masuk dalam
pasti hitungan. I mean we were just looking at the clubs in the surrounding area mereka udah kayak 90% occupancy ke atas kan jadinya. Jadi kayak kayak kita kan as I said before tadi kan kita premium club, kita bisa charge lebih banyak ya kan. Kayaknya I think the average at the time mungkin 350 kita naik, kita confident kalau kita bisa achieve all of those value proposition kita bisa charge 400 lah. That's our starting rate.
That's starting ya.
Yeah. When we first started kita 400,000 per jam. Sekarang 450. Iya.
Waktu itu pertama kali main di Ace Paddle, wah 400,000 per jam guys. Tenis kan
benar.
Tenis 295 waktu itu per jam.
Apalagi outdoor court lu bisa bayar cuma 150
ribu benar. Terus kayak gue mikir ini ada ya marketnya 450,000 per jam, 400,000 loh per jam gitu. Dan apparently ya kayak yang lu bilang, begitu gua masuk, ini mungkin kasih informasi sedikit tentang suasananya Ace Paddle ya. Masuk sebelah kanan ada kios-kios jual kopi, jual makanan kalau nggak salah ya.
Benar.
Terus sebelah kiri ada kayak we call it apa ya, guest area
guest
area
gitu
lounge yang full AC, aircon dan nyaman, sofa dan lain-lain ya. Terus baru ke kesannya lapangan-lapangan
Yeah.
dan di lapangannya juga ada rest area tempat duduknya juga.
Betul,
ya.
ya.
Terus sebelah kiri ada mezanin buat naik lantai kedua.
Betul.
Full AC juga kan.
Justru actually the common area kita cuman pakai kipas sih.
Oh, kipas.
Yeah, yang full AC is actually just the
Lounge.
even the lounge pakai kipas aja.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at the time. Yeah, this is part of the checklist juga lah. We didn't OPEX-nya mau di
Iya.
diturunin juga. And at the time kayaknya we didn't need to make a full we didn't need the experience to be sampai AC kayak gitu. I think now maybe people would consider pasti untuk differentiate mungkin kita AC kan.
Jadi lounge-nya nggak AC tapi kamar mandinya AC.
Kamar mandinya AC. So at the time I think it was just pretty much AC. It was actually not one of the checklists sih.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, karena we knew kayak it would drive up the cost pasti. Number one and number two kayak I think we were able to set ourselves apart through those other things I mentioned tadi kan.
Kalau sekarang yang buka-buka AC semua ya, lounge even the lounge.
Kayaknya ya ada a few sih, not a lot tapi pasti a few. Yeah. And obviously they charge lebih mahal.
Oke.
Ya tapi kita juga di lantai 2 kan kita ada sauna sama cold plunge itu kayak.
Oh ya ada.
Ada. Belum pernah pakai. Ya itu emang a bit hidden in the second floor tapi kita emang ada. At the time kita juga
for free.
No, so we charge that separately. Tapi kalau lu book, it's a private space for you jadinya.
Oke.
Ya, jadi kayak at the time kayak kita kayak pikir-pikir, ini kayak recovery juga di berbagai negara lagi trending juga. So kayak, I think we were using it as an experiment juga. We wanted to see. Tapi sekarang itu justru yang menarik itu kayak mungkin di market Indo very early kayak. But the benefits of like recovery itu definitely very impactful.
Iya.
Karena apalagi sekarang orang-orang yang main kadang-kadang 2 kali sehari atau kayak 5 kali seminggu, 5 sampai 6 kali seminggu, your body cannot keep up kan. And I'd say like the majority of people yang play the sport kan above a certain age actually betul. Jadi kayak itu menarik juga sih sekarang kayak occupancy of the cold plunge juga bisa lumayan lah. Kayak especially on a weekend gitu, orang-orang pakai relax supaya besoknya bisa main lagi gitu.
Belum coba.
Iya. Tapi emang dingin banget bro, 10 derajat ke bawah gitu.
Okay.
Iya.
Dan surprisingly di awal-awal buka itu hype banget bro.
Iya.
Dan susah banget dapat lapangan di prime time di Ace Pedal ya.
Yeah, I think early on itu we were very fortunate juga lah kayak I think kita juga udah buka waitlist gitu kan. Sebelum buka kayak komunitas-komunitas udah kayak sign up segala lah. Kayak I think we cannot give the slots to everybody justru at the time and kayak it was a good problem to have tapi at the same time kayak we had to make sure kayak kayak pasti kan we cannot give the courts to all communities juga kan.
Betul.
Say kayak I think at the time emang what communities gave was access kan jadinya. So I think filling courts at the time was not a challenge gitu. Tapi I think moving forward kalau sekarang kan udah banyak pilihan in the market right now, pasti bakal tantangannya lebih banyak kan jadinya.
My question, to be honest, any of the 4 owners expect bakal se-hype itu?
To be honest, not at this level ya. Wow. I think justru when we first started, kita average occupancy paling kayak at most 80 average which is we were very happy with that karena kalau I think
memang itu targetnya ya.
If you're building a paddle club pasti you do the feasibility study segala kan conservative occupancy paling 50 kan. 50% itu kayak BEP paling kayak bisa you can achieve like 2 to 3 years BEP with 50% gitu kan. Jadi kayak orang-orang makannya gas gitu kan. Tapi kayak wow, when we were seeing like 70 to 80, this is really good. This is like kayak udah like achieving best case scenario. Dan tiba-tiba 90+%. Wow. Iya kan. Jadi kayak itu kayak to achieve that after cuman 2-3 bulan itu wow, we were kayak amazed aja. We were happy with kayak 70-80 itu kayak maksudnya kayak menurut gua kayak itu udah lumayan healthy, udah kayak. Tapi now I'm like honeymoon phase I guess ya kan. Jadi kayak I think at the time emang awal-awal itu ada sempet kayak not as hype as it is now gitu. You get what I mean? Jadi kayak pas kita buka justru masih kayak kayak rame.
Betul.
Ya rame tapi kayak I'd say kayak then tahun 2025 ini it was a different game changer already.
Dan berarti at that time BEP berapa lama?
I'd say with Well, obviously kan kita juga first facility kan kita juga mau limit capex kita juga lah ya. Kayak we didn't want to go too crazy. Ya kan. Jadi kayak I think at the time we were already set for I think 70 to 80 around 1.5 years I'd say.
Oke.
Yeah, 1.5 years, but obviously kan that was the conservative number kan.
Iya.
Ya, tapi sekarang kan ya
Udah dong.
thankfully being an early mover ya we're very fortunate to be in this position lah.
Oke, berarti Ace Pedal udah profitable. Terus udah balik modal dan udah profit.
I'd say udah balik modal sih.
Wow,
For sure. Yeah.
less than a year ya.
Yeah. So but like I said kayak we were very fortunate to be in this position juga lah.
Iya. Kalau boleh tanya, what do you think alasan dari suksesnya Ace Pedal? Apakah timing atau apa?
I'd say obviously timing would definitely be one of the factors ya kan. Obviously competition wasn't as high as it is now. Tapi kayak menurut gue kayak we knew the concept that we were going for and the target audience that we were going for. Ya kan. We wanted to build a place yang orang-orang juga bisa hang out, bisa nongkrong. Cause at the time I think kayak orang-orang paling if you don't hang out in a tennis court too much gitu kan.
Betul.
You get what I mean? Kayak you just play then after you go home gitu kan. Ya. Jadi kayak we knew the concept of a premium club pasti kayak jadi kayak a bit of a social environment juga kan. Jadinya that's why you notice kayak kayak lapangannya harus ada kayak certain areas where people can sort of interact kan. Jadi kayak like I said itu kayak konsepnya we had to nail down to the very specifics and then kita tahu coaching kita. Itu kayaknya dari awal emang one of personally my ambitions juga lah. Kayak I think to help grow the sport pasti kan, especially with the new sport naturally you would see coaching kan. And now coaches itu kayak gila banget sekarang kayak kayak it's a business on its own right sekarang kan. Jadi
mereka
kayak
charge higher rate dari tenis ya. Yeah.
Itu definitely makanya. So kayak I think pasti I knew that Ace ini kayak we knew that we wanted like good coaching staff, ya kan. Make sure kayak program-programnya juga menarik, ya kan. Karena I think kayak area of we want to seek improvement from all the players. Pasti orang-orang mau ke Ace gitu kan.
Yeah.
I think the idea was if you think of coaching, I think if you ask people especially in the Jakbar area kalau mau coaching, I think Ace will be top of mind, ya karena and if that tells me that I think we were successful in doing that, ya kan. Ya jadi kita udah ada mix of like I said tadi foreign coach, local coach, karena mungkin orang-orang juga lebih comfortable with the local coach kan totally understandable juga, and maybe at the time I think what we did really well was that we offered coaching at different price points. Ya misalnya kayak you can go really kayak the coach bule obviously itu kan paling mahal.
Coach bule plus private lagi ya.
Yeah, exactly. Itu kayaknya we started sekitar kayak at the time kayak 1,2 juta ya kan. Terus kayak then we offered kayak like in the middle misalnya more senior coach. Ini kita udah define nih dari awal-awal. Jadi kayak pasti kan it's
rame nggak yang private coach with bule coach?
Rame banget bro.
Wow.
Yeah, I think like at the time obviously I'd say the first month lebih kayak no one knows who you are. Ya kan. Jadi kayak it's our job, I guess my job for the marketing to make sure kayak this guy's resume and profile is known kan. Karena awal-awal ya dia baru pindah dari Belanda ya kan waktu itu si Taufik ya. Jadi kayak itu juga first month pasti kayak we need to drive the marketing supaya awareness.
Namanya
ada.
Taufik?
Iya Taufik.
Orang Belanda tuh?
Orang Belanda ya.
Ada keturunan Indonesia?
Enggak.
Bisa ya?
Ya, bukan Taufik Hidayat gitu ya, kayak Taufik.
Okay.
Ntar gue kirim. Tapi kayak basically we offer different price point like I said.
Right.
Jadi kayak pasti kan orang-orang yang beginner juga we knew kayak mungkin mereka nggak rela bayar kayak harga yang begitu mahal. Jadi kayak pasti harus ada local coaches that are more affordable just because like obviously kayak you pay a premium for a foreign coach lah ya. I think in every club now juga kayak gitu kan. So I think at the time kayak orang-orang both, and now we're in a position where foreign coach people know the value of what the foreign coach can give you, ya kan. And people also know the value of like local coach itu beneran good value juga, ya kan. And maybe lu bisa beli paket 5 kelas, 10 kelas karena mereka udah tahu kayak first time ini gue cocok nih sama coach ini. Tapi kalau gue nggak cocok at least I can try maybe this other coach, ya kan misalnya. Jadi kayak we were already kayak experimenting with that. Jadi kayak I think kita udah dapat sweet spot lah sekarang ya.
It's a good insight sih kayak yang you mention kayak timing is one thing, tapi di luar timing timing in building a business, in starting a business penting. Cuman di luar timing, kayak tadi lu bilang, you already plan kalau ini bakal hype kalau kita bikin coaching, ini bakal hype kalau kita bikin events dan lain-lain. You udah mikirin itu before you started gitu ya. Jadi
Definitely,
I think it's a good insight kayak oke, timing bener dan banyak kok yang buka di timing yang tepat, lokasi tepat, cuman dia nggak mikirin the other thing juga gitu ya.
Right.
So it's a good insight sih.
Yeah, because I think kayak to be honest, sekarang the way we see it itu kayak coaching bantu banget fill the non-peak hour.
Yeah.
It's going to be dulu I guess like when we were at 90 when we honeymoon phase kan 90+% kan ya the course filled by itself kan.
Yeah.
Tapi what we realize now itu kayak coaching itu very sticky. Jadi kayak orang-orang will come back, iya kan? Jadi because maybe they wanna play a tournament. Mereka kan sekarang kan every week ada turnamen, mereka mau
every week ada turnamen.
Every week ada turnamen and they wanna train misalnya. Atau kayak mereka they wanna work out and I think they cannot find people to play with, coach aja gitu kan jadinya. So now if you see the occupancy at our club, itu justru the non-peak hour itu dominated by coaching. And I think itu udah strategi dari day one kan jadinya. And we knew that kayak hiring in-house coaches pasti bakal ada edge-nya karena ada klub-klub yang juga mungkin allow other outside coaches aja kan, mereka nggak hire sendiri gitu.
Betul.
Nah itu kayak the downside to that is that you can't control your ini kan occupancy that much karena jadi kayak I think itu help us a lot especially in the long run. Itu pas kita lagi in the process of hiring our foreign coach, kita nanya-nanya nih kayak we met a couple by the way, kayak pasti kita nanya-nanya kayak I'd like to learn kayak kita mau tahu kayak from where you are, kayak where paddle is already mature, itu clubs that stay itu what sets them apart gitu kayak kayak they've seen clubs close, tapi those that with a proper coaching academy are the ones that end up staying in business gitu. Kan? Itu karena itu already a different revenue stream than just courts gitu kan jadinya.
Dan juga visi dari owners untuk bikin social hangout lounge juga kan. Itu kan you are one of the first sih yang kayak gitu sih. If I'm not mistaken ya.
I'd say everyone
Premium
kayak
lounge ya.
I'd say kayak pasti ada F&B di setiap paddle court pasti kan. Tapi kayak I think we were able to elevate it a little bit, ya kan pasti. So kayak more comfortable seating areas, ya kan. Terus kayak lu nonton, I don't know kalau lu inget kayak court 2 kan itu ada kayak pretty nice seating area di situ kan, lu bisa nonton enak gitu jadinya. Jadi orang-orang setelah mereka main mereka bisa nonton the next match kayak, then they end up staying. I think you played maybe 2 hours tapi you stay bisa up to 3 to 4 hours gitu.
Betul.
Iya kan? Jadinya and then kayak obviously F&B kita juga berjalan.
Terus ada visions and plans yang mendukung suksesnya Ace Paddle sih Not only timing dan location sih.
I think so.
All those things. Anyway, gue udah minta izin ke Bro Matthew untuk kita hitung-hitungan potential revenue dari sebuah paddle court ya. Roughly aja sih ya, roughly. Oke, kan sekarang Ace Paddle 450 ribu per jam. Total court ada 5. Semua sama rate-nya ya?
Semua sama.
Mau yang court 1, court 2 semua sama ya. Oke. Occupancy berapa jam per hari?
Nah, kita kan operational for 16 hours ya kan. Jadi 16 hours berarti dari 6 to 10 ya kan, 16 hours benar kan?
Iya, betul.
So I'd say like kayak on a weekday, let's say kita assume kayak 80% occupancy, ya kan? Mungkin 80%.
Di semua court ya?
Ya, itu udah termasuk semua lah ya.
80% dari 16 jam.
Dari 16 jam, if we do the math, berapa
12, 13.
12 to 13, I'd say.
Oke. 450 ribu kali 5 court.
5 court, Kali berapa jam?
13.
13 jam.
13 jam
ya.
Per day.
Per day, that's per day. And then as you know itu kan weekday. Terus kayak you can let's assume weekend like full, right?
Oh, 16 hours full.
Let's just for the sake of the calculation gampang kan.
Oke, berarti
jadi kayak potentially starting at around that amount until
berarti ada 2 kali weekend ada 8. 8 kali 16 128. Kali 450 ribu.
Betul. That's just court revenue.
Gue kasih tau ya. 220 kali 4,
Yeah.
880 juta revenue per month from the court.
Roughly. Yeah.
Roughly. Terus F&B lah roughly per month.
I'd say this is quite unique karena ya tergantung market juga.
Yeah.
Ya, I from my research itu di selatan consumption of F&B jauh lebih besar.
Okay.
So I'd say kayak say kita for a conservative number, I think around 300 juta per bulan, let's say. Yeah. Ya kan?
Dan you sell merchandise, raket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, merchandise racket kan itu ya, if you think about it, let's just assume balls.
Yeah, kan? Balls.
Yeah, balls kayak berapa? 100,000 gitu kan.
Yeah.
If you multiply it, let's assume kayak for every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours kan ada orang yang beli bola tuh. Berapa bola yang dijual? Itu kayak mungkin kayak bisa 40 tuh per hari kali.
Okay.
I would assume. Yeah kan? It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Jadi kayak then we do the math for coba
Terus coaching.
Yeah, and then coaching juga. Yeah,
coaching you ada profit sharing, right?
Yeah, so I'd say we do. Yeah, jadi kayak in terms of revenue kan berarti I would say on weekend kita gak ada coaching. Kan itu we give it to players. Tapi kayak untuk main mabar. Tapi kayak I'd say on a weekday let's assume 50-50 coaching and game, so kayak berarti we get that additional margin from coaching fees kan jadi. Tapi kan obviously if you talk about kayak net profit kan we also have to consider kita juga bayar coach commission things like that lah. Jadi
kita nggak hitung profit lah, kita revenue aja. Roughly.
Yeah. So that doesn't
banyak sih sebenarnya. All the income stream juga banyak ya. So that's the potential of business model sih ya.
Definitely.
Belum bikin events.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Sekarang justru for I think events juga the way we see it itu kayak kita juga a venue business juga kan jadinya, karena itu a new revenue stream as well. Kayak if you think about it you book hotel for a ballroom gitu kan of course they have to charge a certain premium karena there's not a lot of places that offer that concept kan. Jadinya I think at the beginning kayak awal-awal kayak orang-orang nanya kayak lu untuk event berapa sih bro harganya? Kayak awal-awal kan kita juga this is new to us juga. And at the beginning kayak ini we realize kalau untuk event ada cost-cost apa aja nih. Kayak kadang-kadang kita perlu ada valet tambahan, security tambahan, kayak mungkin harus medical staff, more things like that. Jadi kayak we realize kayak ini nggak mungkin sih kita bisa kasih just the normal court rate. Makanya if you ask every paddle business owner pasti their event rate juga beda-beda lah, tapi pasti it's going to be higher than the normal court rate pasti. And that's basically an additional margin that you take on the courts
dari
juga.
Event ya.
Exactly.
Ada yang bikin turnamen juga, ada yang bikin product launching juga di paddle court ya.
Benar.
Wow, that's amazing sih. Gue bilang ini fenomena sih. Okay, let's talk about this competition. Dari Ace Paddle buka, few months later, ini buka lagi di sini, lagi sih di barat ya, udah berapa banyak tuh?
I think at least 20.
Dari data yang gue dapet ya di sini, di Indonesia ada 133 coming up court ya. Total 133 Jabodetabek katanya. Dan ini kok kayak gampang banget, kayak buka gitu. Kan perlu modal juga kan, modal besar. Tuh kayaknya orang don't mind buka-buka terus gitu. Ini jadi kompetisi. How do you see this competition?
Well, I think kayak obviously everyone kayak pasti pikir-pikir kayak the perceived profitability is very high, kan? Yeah, right. I mean, I think kayak they do the math themselves kan, like what we did tadi. I think it's very appealing, kan? Jadi kayak I think I mean to be honest kayak orang-orang juga bisa pikir kayak gua mau just I don't have to. There are people who want to go ultra premium. As you know kayak I think ada yang di Permata Hijau tuh ada yang bakal bikin dome. Itu juga that's gonna be crazy I think.
Also ada kartel yang premium membership.
Exactly. Jadi kayak I mean depending on what kind of like concept you want to go for. Tapi ada juga yang mungkin just simple and I think limited capex. So they just focus on making sure that balik modal aja kan, cepat gitu kan. And as you know, orang-orang kayak gini I don't know like to be very honest with you, I know that there are a lot of people who are in it to kayak grow the sport, ya kan, passionate about the sport, love the sport. So kayak they are building these venues to basically fulfill their vision juga.
Yeah.
I think that was for us as well. Tapi juga pasti, like I said, perceived profitability ini is very, I'd say like
tricky,
tricky. Like it encourages people, let's just build a paddle business. Empty land, let's build a paddle business, iya kan. Tapi kayak the perceived profitability kan, like I said, is going to vary depending on your occupancy kan. Jadinya, pasti kayak I think people should not only think about the best case but also kayak the worst case juga. So kayak I think pasti there will be clubs yang I'd say kayak those that probably are in it just to sewa-sewa lapangan lah. Karena they know there's a shortage right now, right? There's or this was like maybe a few months ago. Tapi maybe sooner than later, I think kayak the supply will meet the demand kan jadinya. So how do you differentiate yourselves?
But as paddle, how do you feel about this massive competitions ya?
To be honest, I think kayak kita kan we already define the pillars yang kita mau kayak sort of like be different in kayak. I think kayak I'm very confident with our coaching program misalnya kan. I think itu by itself itu udah bisa bantu kita in terms of like people would consider coaching at ACE dibanding yang lain gitu kan. Because in my opinion kayak it's good value if you compare it to coaching, kayak coaching in Selatan misalnya. Wah, itu kayak lapangan-lapangan udah kayak 600-700 ribu kan ada. And then kayak on top of that, and by the way, coaching fee is always coaching fee plus court. So you have to consider that it's a total of that gitu kan. Jadi kayak in my opinion Barat kita good value banget, and not to mention good coaching gitu kan jadinya.
Tapi kan kalau coaching it's easy tanda kutip untuk di copy ya, kayak ya udah kita hire coach juga aja dari luar gitu, foreign coach.
So I think kayak in a way kayak you'd be surprised that kayak orang-orang yang kayak have tried to hire foreign coaches tapi kayak mungkin they are struggling because orangnya kurang fit misalnya kayak. I mean ini this might be a hot take ya, tapi kayak orang kayak mungkin hire Spanish coach. Kan everyone knows Spain is like
originnya dari Spain ya.
Kan well technically kan Spain is like Spain and Argentina, they have most of the best players in the world. I mean Tapia, Coelho, like the number ones in the world. Kan
Alegalan dari
Spain.
Ya
Kan. Chingoto Argentina as well. So it's rinse and repeat like kayak those type of players. So naturally orang-orang kayak pikir kayak okay maybe kita hire coach dari Spain ya. Kayak itu kayak similar to how people pikir awal-awal tuh orang-orang mau bayar lebih mahal untuk lapangan Spanyol, iya kan? Tapi kayak the market here can't tell the difference between a court yang mungkin manufactured in China versus a more expensive court yang di Spain gitu. So kayak kayak I can confidently say kayak I think even me I can't really tell the difference gitu. And I play quite regularly.
Sorry gue potong. Ace Paddle manufacture dari
kita dari Cina.
Dari China.
Udah
jadi kirim atau?
Udah jadi. So we use a supplier from over there.
Karena what I know beberapa sekarang udah
local ya. I don't think we are confident with going with the locals yet karena I think kayak jadinya kan it's also new for them juga lah ya. Especially when we first entered the market itu kayaknya belum ready sih. Kayak the quality of the steel, everything like that kayak masih kayak agak bengkok gitu kayak it affects the game juga lah, and we didn't want to take that risk gitu.
Terus kayak sekarang paddle courts kayak udah jadi standard untuk punya lounge yang premium dan lain-lain.
Seating area.
Bahkan full aircon dan lain-lain. Would you see that as threat?
I mean, I think it is, tapi kayak at the same time gue juga dengar feedback kayak orang-orang yang main di tempat AC rasanya nggak kayak olahraga. Iya kan. Jadi kayak I feel like kayak to be honest I think those clubs will have higher OPEX. Kan? So naturally kayak I think kayak it depends what you want to focus on kan jadinya. Kayak I think we're happy where we are. Tapi kayak in my opinion kayak I think kita kan before ACE first open itu kan community yang sama dari yang dibuka sama Billy, my partners juga itu they already started it before ACE open, kan. So I think kayak it kept growing, ya kan. Ini West Padel Crew udah besar banget to the point where kayaknya Ace jadi home untuk mereka, ya kan. And I think being able to enter the market early on kan we were able to also meet community leaders yang mau cari home juga untuk mereka, gitu kan. And we have a good relationship with these communities kan juga. Pasti kayak we cannot attribute our success without them and without our community juga. And I think we realize kayak okay, coaching is number one, obviously. Ya kan, we have to offer like good services juga, good hospitality, ya kan pasti. And kayak akhirnya kita juga pasti the community is what helps build the place. Kayak lu gak mau ke tempat paddle club yang rasanya kayak mati gitu kan, kayak there's no life gitu kan. Jadinya kayak I think kayak what we do juga agak menarik, kayak every Tuesday kita ada exhibition match gitu. Kan orang-orang our paddle coaches bisa undang-undang, kayak sekarang ada beberapa kan pemain yang udah di sini kan, yang dari luar gitu. Jadi kayak menarik juga sih, we host like kayak at 6 PM kayak mereka main, it's very high level match gitu lah. Jadi kayak orang-orang bisa nonton gitu jadinya. I think these kind of things kayak help elevate the brand image a little bit juga lah ya.
What do you think about the positive sides dari banyaknya kompetisi ini?
I think it just forces people to sort of like think about how you want to innovate juga lah ya. Karena kan we cannot rely on just mabar gitu kan.
Betul,
kayak jadi kayak I think this will help eventually kayak push the sport a little bit forward, a little bit. Kayak I think orang-orang kan mungkin komunitas kayak now a lot of people juga rasa kayak they want to play a more intense match gitu kan jadinya. Ya kayak I think with more courts, more accessible courts, orang-orang bisa have more playing time, mereka tambah jago, hopefully, ya kan, and then more opportunity for them to develop themselves juga, and jadinya I guess like the overall market jadi lebih gede kan, technically. So I think kayak when we first open kan November, terus tiba-tiba kan awal tahun ini banyak banget tuh yang buka, but we still didn't see occupancy drop gitu misalnya, karena itu jadinya orang-orang it allows people that haven't tried the sport to play, ya kan, and then the market just keeps growing, ya kan jadinya, and then obviously kayak as I think we're gonna talk about this after this, tapi kayak as soon as the supply just becomes too much, bakal ada equilibrium juga kan jadinya. So I think kayak overall, I think with this competition it forces us to also just be always on top of what kita harus always pikir how do we stay relevant, ya kan. Kayak jadinya kayak event-event apa yang kita mau adain di depan kita, ya kan. Apalagi kayak misalnya kayak kita mau mungkin semua tempat udah ada coaching, private coaching. What do we do that yang menarik untuk pemain-pemain nih, yang mungkin kayak kayak coachnya bisa main sama playersnya, supaya bisa ngajar you kayak because it's not just technique but just kayak gameplay gitu or something like that. Itu kayak something that we've been trying to do juga. Jadi kayak this interesting programs lah, kayak gini. Jadi kayak you always have to be creative juga jadinya.
Competition maksa kita untuk mikir lagi kan.
For sure.
Apalagi gitu ya.
For sure. I mean at the end of the day every facility paling they already invested in nice place. Kayak itu like I said kayak facility, unless your facility costs like 50 M, itu beda. Obviously you're a league on your own, tapi kayak at the same time kayak it's those little things that matter kan. Jadi
ngelanjutin deh yang tadi yang ngomongin soal supply and demand. Oversupply, everything. Everybody talks about what happened in Swedia gitu ya. Gue bacain sedikit ya, ini the stats ya dari sumber media Straits Times. Tahun 2018 sampai 2021 Swedia mengalami pertumbuhan pesat lapangan paddle dari 300 lapangan jadi 3.500 lapangan. Terus dalam waktu singkat akhirnya banyak investor waktu itu mulai marah karena penurunan dan banyak dari lapangan itu berubah menjadi sekarang jadi convert ke grocery stores dan gudang. Di 2023 sekitar 90 perusahaan terkait paddle dilaporkan bangkrut pada 2023. Banyak yang convert jadi grocery store dan gudang sekarang gitu. Banyak yang bilang is gonna happen also di Jakarta, di Indonesia gitu. You have any opinion? Karena itu scary loh.
Definitely. I think a lot of people, probably everyone knows about you see it on social media.
Yeah,
kan?
everybody
kayak,
talks about it.
Yeah, everyone talks about it. Sekarang udah jadi kayak case study lah.
Yeah.
Jadi kayak I think untuk setiap every market, ya kan. It is interesting karena we're seeing a lot of like overlap ya. What we're seeing here in Jakarta especially, kayak the rate of growth is insane, ya kan. Kayak I think how many courts are opening by next year, ya kan jadinya. Jadi kayak naturally kayak pasti there will be clubs that eventually run out of business juga, go out of business juga. That's I think inevitable, ya kan. So tapi kayak how do you position yourself in a way where you are the ones that can stay, ya kan? Karena nah I guess kayak a lot of people see this as as like kayak obviously kayak the perceived profitability yang gue bilang tadi kan juga pancing-pancing banyak kayak potential entrepreneurs to enter the market, but then they don't realize kayak okay, like how do you stay relevant for the long run gitu? How do you invest in things that allow you to become successful not just like this year but like maybe in 5 years to come, ya kan? Nah, jadi kayak I think itu pasti there will be an oversupply eventually, right? Yeah, and there will be an oversupply eventually, and those clubs that don't make an effort to misalnya like kayak do all of the things, make sure like the players are developed, put the proper coaching, itu kayak if they just rely on kayak orang-orang untuk isi lapangan, you're eventually gonna die kan, like naturally kayak like I said kayak the battle of the non-peak hours pasti lu kalah, ya kan, so but I think I want to kayak change the framing a little bit to kayak gini deh, kayak I think what happened in Sweden obviously was just a case of supply and demand, ya kan. But it doesn't mean the sport will actually die, gitu kan. Ya, karena a lot of people kayak mungkin jump to conclusion kayak, oh, what happened in Sweden, this is just a hype. This is just a hype sport. The sport will die. In my opinion, itu kayak that's wrong. Yeah, I think I'm quite confident to say that this sport is here to stay for a long time.
For a long time.
I mean, just naturally kayak kita kan in Indo kan we're very known for badminton. Yeah, badminton hasn't died. Yeah, kan? It's still going on, and I'd say kayak tenis juga stabil. Yeah, kan. So naturally kayak we are a country yang pasti we are able to stabilize, and paddle will still be able to thrive. Like kayak not maybe at the rate it is now, tapi kayak eventually kayak in the long run pasti bisa like find its sweet spot gitu lah. So the reason I say that itu karena in Sweden now kayaknya in 2024 I also did research back in the day, itu sekarang mereka masih ada 1,000 clubs and 4,000 courts. That's a lot more than what we have now, and then itu udah stable gitu, ya kan. So maybe awal-awal mereka udah banyak banget, kebanyakan, tapi then suddenly kan turun natural aja kan. But the sport is like clubs are still at 50-60% occupancy and stable gitu kan. So I think kayak like itu agak change in perception lah. Jadi kayak maybe people focus too much on the narrative that banyak klub yang tutup, sportnya bakal mati gitu kan.
Betul.
Yeah. So kayak I think people should realize kayak okay, it was just a matter of too much supply, but too much supply doesn't mean that the sport is actually like gonna be gone forever. Because like ini aja, this is still I'd say year 2 of or maybe even year 1 for like kayak paddle like boom gitu kan.
Betul.
Ya, jadi kayak ini aja kita kan, as you know, the country also is making its effort to put funding into this sport, ya kan. Karena ya as you see kita udah bangun federasi, ya kan. PBPI,
udah ada ya?
So PBPI kan juga udah mulai hosting the national events kan. Itu kayak circuit kemarin tuh was a very good like kayak event where they hosted national sanctioned tournaments in Jakarta, Bali, Surabaya. Itu kayak that happened this year tuh, which is good for the sport. I think a lot, and it was good to see kayak banyak penonton juga. Jadi kayak itu one thing. Terus sekarang nih mereka lagi kirim national team ke Qatar. Ya, jadi kayak FIP Asia Cup itu kayak bakal going against kayak orang other countries from Asia. And I think kayak to see that the government is already the federation is already making that effort to basically already create this kayak national team juga, I think juga bakal pay dividends in the future juga, karena ini Olympic aja belum datang, and a lot of people are saying 2032 kan menjadi Olimpik pertama di mana paddle akan dimainkan. Ya. Jadi kayak I think the federation is already thinking about that already, ya kan. Jadi kayak naturally ini sportnya menurut gua market kita masih kayak like I told you before
masih
kayak
muda,
masih kayak we're still not a mature market, di mana kayak in tennis or in badminton kan udah berjalan begitu lama. There are youth programs, there are junior programs itu kan. Ini kayak lu pernah dengar kan kayak yang kayak under 12, under 14, under 16 itu paddle belum ada. And that's because belum ada opportunity or maybe aksesnya belum ada gitu. So kayak I think we are still very early in my opinion, to the point where kayak pasti Indonesia kalau kita beneran mau invest in this sport, I'm sure this is aligned with the federation and also the government, that kayak mereka mau untuk the sport to thrive gitu kan. So kayak pasti naturally we're building the next generation of talent, pasti kan harus ada investment into the sport lebih banyak gitu kan. And I think kayak especially in Asia, kita juga I think we can be one of the biggest hopefully karena as I told you before kayak the growth in Indonesia itu easily exceeds the growth in every other Asian country, kan?
World maybe?
I'd say kayak Asia confident, karena kita tapi in the world I think they're already more mature, so I think in terms of growth we're definitely one of the biggest, and like I said, Sweden, Indo population much bigger, right? So I think kayak so that's my response to
but you agree sekarang di Jabodetabek lah oversupply.
I don't know if I would say that yet, karena menurut gua kemarin lihat data Reclub Jabodetabek active players 100,000. Iya, udah. And by the way, earlier this year cuma 50,000. Jadi kayak if you think about 200 lapangan, kalau lu 200 lapangan kali 4 orang, iya kan? Kan that's still plenty. I think it's still a like relatively healthy number there.
Kita anggap aja yang main 50% dari Reclub 50,000.
Sorry,
gue revisi dikit tadi, gue bilang di Jabodetabek 184. Ini based on data terakhir lah ya. 95 udah beroperasi, 89 lagi pengerjaan.
So that means like around 200-300 next year.
Around 200-300 next year.
Courts, right?
Dari tadi opinion you don't know whether this is udah oversupply atau belum. Tapi dari consumer standpoint, ini sebenarnya consumer surplus ya, karena kita banyak pilihan dan lain-lain. Terus tapi yang kita nggak mau itu sih the sports die gitu. Kayak ini hype doang. 1, 2, 3 tahun lagi orang-orang udah forget about paddle. Lapangan paddle berubah lagi balik jadi tenis dan lain-lain. Itu yang kita nggak mau sih. Tapi you said tadi, menurut Bro Matthew, this sport is gonna last very long. Do you think it's gonna last as long as tennis?
I think so.
Kita nggak ngomong badminton lah. Badminton udah nomor 1 kan di Indonesia. Tenis lah gitu.
I think to be honest kayak naturally kayak the sport itself is easier to play. Kan naturally, to the point where I think that's why a lot of people found it attractive juga kan. Jadi kayak I think like I said kayak the sport itself kayak maybe even the focus can be, to be honest, tenis aja kan kita I think from Indo to compete at an international stage susah banget. Kan, and like maybe people realize like maybe paddle we have a better chance gitu mungkin, karena it's new for a lot of people. We can compete with China, we can compete with kayak Japan gitu possibly, right? Jadi kayak I'm sure kayak obviously tennis is a much more like difficult sport, like how golf is also a difficult sport.
Ini statement yang lumayan ini kontroversial. Tadi ada yang protes di komen.
Jadi tapi kayak I think quite confident based on those
tapi
reasons.
Relatively easier lah dibanding tenis kan.
Definitely.
Do you see dengan nanti makin banyak lapangan paddle court bakal mempengaruhi harga sewa lapangan?
Naturally, it should see.
You will find the market price.
I think right now it's just obviously like people are trying to take advantage of the hype and the momentum. Kan? Jadi kayak as you know, secondary market lapangan is a business.
Yeah.
Iya kan, orang-orang willing to pay literally ke grup WA yang jual lapangan-lapangan WTS gitu.
Yeah.
And they get scammed because of it.
Betul.
Ya, itu beneran, it happens like every week. Kan? To the point where I think to say that if there's an oversupply, of course, I don't think that would happen.
Yes,
right? So kayak I think we're to jump to the conclusion and say we're oversupply. Let's not go there yet lah. I'd say. So kayak I think that's just an example aja kayak maybe orang-orang pasti want to fight for the peak hours lah, kan? Orang-orang mau fight for the peak hours. Not everyone is getting their preferred time slot. I can tell you that for sure. Ya kan? Jadi kayak pasti weekends are still like very healthy. Orang-orang willing to, still play at certain hours gitu kan. You kind of like you work your day around when you can play paddle. Oh, adanya jam 10. Iya kan? You know what I'm saying?
Kita yang menyesuaikan ya.
Menyesuaikan. Tapi kayak I think my final comment, I think given those reasons and the sport itself is global growth juga overall kan, it's not like it's like kayak like only happening here, it's happening outside as well. Kayak like investments are being put into the professional league and everything like that. Jadi kayak naturally these national leagues kayak national sanction tournaments juga bakal lebih banyak gitu to help grow the sport and make sure kayak we find the next talent sih for the country.
Let's conclude. Ini belum oversupply lah kita anggap ya. Yang kita nggak mau itu, yang kita berdua nggak mau dan a lot of my friends juga nggak mau adalah this sports is gonna be just sport sementara gitu ya. Kita maunya ini long lasting. Long lasting, kita ngomongin long lasting itu 30 to 50 years ya kita ngomongin. Apa yang menurut lu bro harus dilakukan oleh all the courts owner dan pemerintah juga biar ini bisa long lasting gitu. Di sport bisa long lasting. What do you think?
I think pasti there will have to be better access to like a wider market, ya kan? I think naturally kayak right now, it's very like middle to up lah ya.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So like kayak if you notice kayak it's expensive, ya kan? Not everyone can afford it gitu kayak. And I think kayak even kayak right now for a someone, let's say you're in high school or in middle school gitu, kayak you don't see that. We have data kan. Jadi kayak we're seeing kayak the age demographic itu belum sampai ke situ tuh, ya kan? And that opens up a bigger market, ya kan? We have a kids academy, we do. Tapi kayak itu kan because
small percentage.
Still small. Tapi kayak I think opportunity for growth is very big juga. Ini kan kita juga belum kerja sama schools, ya kan? Like kayak itu belum, we haven't even gotten there. So I think kayak if you notice kayak academy di Jakarta masih kecil-kecil banget, ya kan jadinya. So opportunity for growth will be there if the I don't know if you saw an article, tapi kayak I think the government akan buka public courts. Kayak tenis kan banyak banget public courts in the city.
Belum baca sih.
Ya, jadi kayak itu is going to happen, ya kan. And I think if I'm not mistaken, some are even going to be provided for free gitu to play in gitu jadinya. So kayak I think that's just good for the sport in general, karena you know that the government is willing to make an effort like this to make the sport just more accessible for everybody. It cannot just be I guess like the reason why badminton and tennis itu mereka udah ketemu the market rate lah ya jadinya. Kayak I mean sure tennis juga maybe for some people not everyone can afford it. Tapi pasti kayak the government will have to sort of like create this new kayak facilities, ya kan, public facilities, supaya orang-orang juga bisa find out about the sport itself, ya kan. Then from there kerjasama sama sekolah, ya kan jadinya. Maybe kayak ekskul gitu bisa jadi padel gitu kan jadinya. Itu lumayan important karena these are the people yang eventually will play the sport like 10 years, 20 years down the line, ya kan. So then I think naturally itu pasti a collaboration that needs to happen, and we've seen it in other sports juga kan. Karena setiap sekolah kan gak mungkin ada kayak yang gak ada PE atau olahraga gitu kan.
Betul.
Ya pasti itu that's going to happen. Terus number 3, I guess from a government federation standpoint, pasti kan we want to start to introduce kayak like recreational leagues gitu. Orang-orang to actively play the sport like recurringly, ya kan jadinya kayak like I told you with tennis kayak ada ILTL gitu kayak that's just one gitu kan, and that's not even by the government, that's private. Tapi kayak I think kayak if more of these events are supported by the government and then more leagues happen, kerjasama across
Betul,
clubs, I think it would be very good gitu jadinya kayak because it encourages people kayak sekarang kan Ace is also part of a league juga kan.
Yeah.
I told you I think before that there's this league that takes place between clubs gitu. Tim dari Ace lawan tim dari
Between pedal courts
ya. Yeah, between pedal courts. Jadi kayak I think this is a good start gitu jadinya. Kayak but not only that, dari sisi klubnya itu kayak we care about this karena we know itu kita cari pemain, these are the players yang jadi community kita kan jadinya. You help ini aja we're playing only like berapa kategori doang, paling kayak silver, bronze doang, tapi kayak in the future kayak maybe there's even like more categories karena ya we want to cater to a bigger market kan jadinya. And then not to mention ya kids, juniors,
betul.
under 4 like yang gue bilang tadi under 12, under 14, under 16 itu harus ada tuh. Sekarang semua kids academy kayaknya masih kayak masukin aja kids walaupun mereka 12 tahun usia umur 6 gitu, mereka digabungin together and I think itu room for improvement lah pasti. Iya kan? So I think gue ingat banget pas tenis kan pasti ada kelas beginner, kelas intermediate, kelas advanced, terus based on age juga kan. Ya jadi kayak I think naturally itu pasti clubs will have to consider that juga kan. Youth programs, youth academies itu lumayan penting sih for the development of the sport.
I love how you say penetrate market anak-anak sekolah karena they are gonna be the ones yang main nanti di 10-20 tahun ke depan. Itu yang udah terjadi di tenis sports juga kan. Banyak mereka penetrasi ke sekolah-sekolah, ngajarin tenis bikin mereka suka tenis ya, bikin mereka suka pedal juga ke depannya. Biar karena mereka bakal yang main nanti 20-30 tahun ke depan kan gitu.
Exactly.
Dan menurut gua pedal courts owner juga perlu perhatikan hal-hal kayak gini sih di dalam courtsnya mereka. Jadi nggak cuma mikirin bisnis side-nya aja ya gitu, tapi gimana cara bikinnya jadi long term sports yang bisa bertahan selama mungkin. What do you think?
How do you want to stay?
Tanggung jawab dari pedal courts owner ya.
Pasti itu kayak I think the investment into I guess coaching becomes more important kan. Jadinya I think not just from the club perspective but from kayak the government standpoint or like kayak kan di school, if let's say you wanna sekolah-sekolah mau mulai paddle program gitu kan, who's gonna teach gitu kan. You're gonna have to eventually invest in kayak someone who can build the next generation of coaches juga. Itu that's what happens with tennis juga kan jadinya. Nah itu juga every club should invest in like their coaching program obviously karena ini juga is going to help you down the road karena you like I said not every the mabar it's not gonna get you far. Ya kan, jadinya kayak you have to eventually kayak find other revenue stream juga kan for you, tapi kayak at the same time you're also opening yourself up to like a bigger market jadinya. Ya kan, maybe kayak say kayak orang-orang yang udah bisa mulai gua mau mulai kids academy below 10 years old and above 10 years old gitu, kayak menarik kan jadinya. Jadi kayak but also like of course gak bisa coach asal-asal, so I think kayak in a way pasti like I said what the strategy behind Ace was we had to find a foreign coach yang we were confident yang bisa provide knowledge and provide training to local coaches kita juga. And that's obviously very hard business to scale. Karena itu imagine kayak it's just one person, kayak gak mungkin lu bisa kayak suddenly bikin coaches yang jago gitu kan. Tapi kayak I think what I saw abroad itu kayak a lot of these international academies itu mulai ada bikin planting the seeds in Asia gitu lah jadinya. Kayak these are the people yang bisa bantu develop the quality of kayak coaches juga. Jadi kayak I don't know if you saw this, tapi kayak beberapa certification companies udah ke Indo gitu, kayak ada APPA, M3 itu kan those certifications kan ada yang dari luar juga kan. And itu kayak you'd be surprised gara-gara so many people actually want to look for that gitu. And I think if the government can actually bisa bantu bawa gitu, itu will be good juga karena you're opening yourself up to orang-orang kayak upskilling themselves gitu. Jadinya training is more proper. Orang-orang kan sekarang maybe sorry to say tapi a lot of coaches kan they're self-taught kan jadinya. Tapi kayak to say kayak that they can be the question becomes, are they actually a good coach or not? We don't know karena there's actually a lack of quality of coaches in the market gitu kan. Nah jadi kayak I think from club standpoint pasti coaches, but you also have to look after your community, ya kan? These are the people that fill your club, ya kan jadinya. Kayak how do you make sure retention itu is something that you can achieve? Karena ya mungkin you build some sort of loyalty program with your, you can't just kayak why do you go to a Marriott hotel? You go there because you acquire Bonvoy points gitu kan. So, and you can earn points, spend points gitu jadinya. Ya I think some sort of like those kind of like programs itu juga menarik kan to pull customers back. Lu juga bisa host more events, host your own tournaments, maybe work with a couple of clubs, start a league. Ini di barat mungkin kayak kita udah 20 klub, kita bisa adain league kayak gini nih. Menarik kan jadinya kayak karena eventually kayak pasti orang-orang kayak you need to give them an opportunity to perform and compete juga kan orang-orang, and I think that's what people want sih sekarang kan. Ya jadi kayak I think rather it's like kayak make sure the events are proper, well run, well funded of course, kayak you obviously have to work with brands yang bisa bantu support your vision ya kan jadinya. Ya tapi at the end of the day kayak you're just making sure that the growth can be sustainable juga kan. Yeah, so these are like some things that I think club should be doing.
That's a very 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 good insight sih. For this pedal ecosystem I would say. Okay. Bro Matthew, to close deh. Kita tahu community plays a very important part di this industry pedal community, pedal ecosystem ya. Tapi banyak teman-teman yang kita tahu Reclub kan ada host Reclub, dia ada ones yang booking lapangan, War booking lapangan, dan ada beberapa host yang complaining about penurunan orang-orang yang main pedal sekarang gitu. Do you have any strategy atau pesan buat host Reclub ini?
Pesan-pesan I think
what do they have to do gitu?
I think it's interesting to me because like kayak the communities have spent a lot of time kayak being the ones yang ada akses ke lapangan ya kan. So I think kayak by the way a lot of people may jump to the conclusion bahwa communities makin mati nih, the sport is dying. That's not true. Ya kan?
Is it just a cycle? Jadi emang lagi sepi gitu? What do you think?
I think it's just a sign of the market being more mature sih. Ya, jadi kayak ini lebih kayak redistribution of the players. Karena emang dulu our community itu West Paddle Crew yang di Ace itu kita bakal narik orang-orang dari PIK, dari selatan. Ya kan, they would come, like literally ada teman-teman gue bakal tinggal di PIK, mereka ke Kemang bro untuk main gitu, just because the community had a court gitu kan. So kayak, but as you know, the market is changing, ya kan. There's more clubs, more supply, to the point where maybe people would consider I don't really have to play in that community anymore sih, ya kan. Jadinya, jadi kayak why would I play in that community if I can just go 10 minutes from my house, karena udah ada paddle club gitu kan. So I think communities, if you want to stay relevant, itu pasti you need to make your mabar not just a mabar kan. Like I said kayak you have to start to be creative now. Kayak mungkin kayak work with brands ya kan. Work with brands kayak some communities are doing this really well, making it like kayak juga lebih dari just Americano Mexicano yang every people will eventually get bored. It's true kan. Karena orang-orang juga mungkin nggak mau ikut community because they want a better game misalnya. I've heard this from a lot of people karena orang-orang juga their ambition to gua mau lawan orang-orang yang lebih bagus lah gitu kayak I don't think I can do it here gitu. I want to sekarang mungkin main berempat doang sama teman-teman gue yang gue udah tahu bisa main gitu kan. And I think kayak naturally that's how the market matures kan. Jadinya kayak community is always good for the beginners, the people who start out kayak it's a sort of like an environment where you can learn ya kan at the beginning. Tapi then as your player development increases kayak pas it's just the cycle, right? It's just a cycle. Tapi kayak like I said kayak the market is maturing. The players are able to have choice in where they want to play. They're not constrained by the community anymore. Maybe who knows, they might start their own community in another place gitu. Itu sering terjadi kan. So my advice itu we have to, for communities to stay afloat, pasti of course, you need to make every session like more interesting.
Be creative.
Yeah. Be more creative. Work with brands. Maybe even work with other communities to host some sort of like competitive kayak konsep gitu. Ya kan jadinya kayak where the winner gets certain prizes atau apa gitu ya. I think in the future pasti itu community yang kayak gitu. Itu yang bakal masih orang-orang bakal tetap request ya kan. I think there was a community that did a really good job recently kayak every week they basically bawa pemain misalnya kayak pemain gold ya play with pemain gold ini play with a pro gitu jadinya kayak
pemain goldnya mau
well of course kan they're misalnya community-nya mereka tahu okay we can support this gitu kan ya gitu kayak ya pasti there has to be support
dibayar
from support from somewhere kan tapi kayak these are things you have to consider lah I mean back in the day kayak communities juga you don't have to do much and you make a profit gitu kan.
Betul.
Kan? Ya, jadi kayak but now kayak you have to consider okay if you really want this community to go on and your community to udah be sustainable for the long run, these are things that you have to invest in juga kan jadinya.
Is a sign of maturing ya.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Oke. Bro Matthew. Is Pedal dengar-dengar mau buka another branch.
Yes.
Di mana?
So kita bakal buka our next location di Lippo Karawaci di Tangerang itu bulan depan.
Bulan depan.
Ya, jadi we're very excited for that. So our second location after yang di Jalan Panjang, kita juga ada project di GBK Senayan.
Project?
So it's still ongoing, ya kan. Itu juga akan dibangun early tahun depan, ya kan. Jadi itu bukan di GBK-nya sih, tapi di art hotelnya.
Permanen tapi.
Okay. So and I think I can also announce that kita juga are planning a location outside Jakarta di Surabaya actually. So we're trying to enter that market as well because we're seeing a lot of growth di situ. So kayak that's what I can disclose for now.
Dan bakal ada event apa dalam waktu dekat?
Kita ntar di bulan November ini kan to commemorate our 1 year anniversary di Jalan Panjang, kita bakal adain event juga 1 year anniversary. Ini lebih bukan turnamen besar-besar, tapi kayak obviously kayak we want to use it as a way to pay our thank you and our kayak basically to everyone that contributed to our success juga, the community. So we're inviting all of the communities to come and celebrate juga, and obviously there will be prizes. So we'll make it like a pretty fun event. Ya, bukan kompetitif kayak sampai kayak turnamen besar gitu, tapi I think itu karena we also want to prepare that for our grand opening di Karawaci tahun depan sih, early
tanggal berapa?
Ini yang 1 year anniversary itu 22 November.
22 November.
Yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully Karawaci bakal mulai untuk soft opening trial itu di 15 November.
Yap. Ini salah satu yang harus kita contoh sih dari East Pedal kayak tanggal berapa ya? Tanggal 18 Oktober you guys collab with Wilson juga kan untuk bikin event ya. Jadi keeps doing creative events ya. Untuk maintain the sports ya.
So itu juga event yang collaboration between kita sama Wilson Indonesia sama Rich Paddle Community yang I think the biggest community in Jakarta. Itu we're going to host just like a activation di tempat kita, ya kan, as a way to announce our partnership juga sih with Wilson jadinya. Jadi kayak I think mereka juga have the same vision that we do. Jadi kayak this strategic partnership hopefully can help both brands, both Ace and both Wilson juga moving forward di Indonesia.
Anyway, thank you Bro Matthew once again buat waktunya udah mau main ke Folknomics Podcast. Very very good insights ya, banyak input buat pedal court owners, input buat community, buat yang pemain-pemain juga ya. So it's a very great talk. Thank you so much. Let's play pedal together.
Sure. Ayo.
Sekali-sekali ya.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Folknomics.